Hello there and welcome to all 5 of you watching. Yes, I'm mocking myself for not having a very successful channel. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Ezra Miller's Messiah Delusions. Wow, he sounds like me. Inside the Flash star's Dark Spiral, they're one of Hollywood's brightest stars and most troubled actors. Amid safety concerns and anxiety over the fate of a $200 million movie, VF unearths disturbing new details in a saga of grandiose sermons, guns, drugs, and alleged assaults and grooming. By Julie Miller of Vanity Fair. It's just another day in Hollywood, everyone. You know, the same people who talk down and lecture their customers. It's hilarious at this point. How can you be calling your customers ists and isms? The star of the Game of Thrones prequel, House of Dragons, saying that men were trying to divide her and her female co-star. Clearly, there were issues there, but of course it's men. It's always men. These people don't stop. How many people have come out against Ezra Miller for their behaviour? Why are they happy to destroy some people and not others? You know, the SJWs are very quiet on Ezra Miller, aren't they? Anyway, Ezra Miller did not, to put it mildly, invoke their right to remain silent. This past March, the actor was arrested in a tiki bar called Margarita Village in Hilo, Hawaii, after shouting profanities, spitting in a patron's face, and grabbing a microphone from a woman singing karaoke to Shallow from A Star Is Born. Miller claimed to have been accosted by a Nazi and to have evidence. In fact, one of the first things you'll hear the actor say in the 3-minute police body cam video that circulated after the arrest is something the officers had likely never heard from a disorderly dive bar patron before. I film myself when I get assaulted for NFT crypto art. Once outside, Miller, sweaty and dishevelled in a black suit jacket, burgundy pants and a red tie, barks at the cops to state their full names and badge numbers. When one attempts to search Miller's pockets, the actor says twice, "Rapid fire, I'm transgender, non-binary, I don't want to be searched by a man." Wow, wow, wow. Look, it's amazing, isn't it? This is these extremists all over. You think because you're LGBTQ+, you think because you're non-binary, that gives you a right not to be searched by a man because somehow a man's the enemy. But I thought a man was a he, him. Ezra, should you be referring to a man as a man? Aren't you exposing your own narrative? After being called sir, the actor responds, "That is an act of intentional bigotry and a technical hate crime." So he called the officer, sorry, because I'm doing what he's accusing the police people of, right? They are calling the police officer a man, which in his terms is a hate crime. But he was called sir and he sees that as a hate crime. So it's ironic, isn't it? Miller, whose pronouns are they, them, registers their objection to being unlawfully persecuted for a crime of no designation, says they have pre-existing nerve damage from police handcuffs, and expands on the Nazi assaults. "You should have told us that instead of running away," an officer replies placidly. "We could have took care of everything real quick, but you wanted to play the game." Interesting. Sources say the actor verbally and emotionally abused those around them and referred to themselves alternately as Jesus and the devil. When the police empty Miller's pockets, they find styrofoam Nerf bullets and place them in a plastic bag, along with the single accessory linking the person in cuffs to the movie that their acclaimed career. let's say that again, in cuffs to the movie that their acclaimed career, as well as 200 million of Warner Brothers money, is riding on. A ring emblazoned with their DC Comics superhero character. By now, Miller seems to have burnt out their rage. The Flash ring means a lot to me, the actor says quietly. It's very valuable. What I will say about Ezra, he's very passionate about the Flash. He loves this character, They love this character. You see, Ezra, I'm not being hateful. I forget. Most of us forget. Those police people probably forgot to refer to you as they, them. And I think that's understandable. This is new to many of us. But I will say this for Ezra. The Flash is very, very important to them. Very. I think if it wasn't for Ezra, we wouldn't have even got a Flash movie. He was very, very, aggressive about getting the right people to make the movie. So I will say that for them. That arrest was just one turn in a downward spiral so confusing and troubling that even old friends have difficulty passing the chaos. What's clear is that Miller has been endangering not just their career but also their safety and allegedly that of others in increasingly plain sight. For the last 2 years, since 2020, the actor has been accused of crimes and abuse spanning 6,000 miles and 2 oceans, throwing a chair that hit a woman in the forehead, threatening a couple in their bedroom and stealing their wallet and passport in Hawaii. On top of an incident at Margarita Village, choking 2 strangers in Iceland and breaking into a neighbour's home in Vermont to steal alcohol, which resulted in a felony charge. Now, I was under the impression he only was allegedly guilty of strangling or throttling 1 young woman. In Iceland, now it's 2. That sounds a bit dubious. Anyway, in June, 2 protection orders were issued against Miller. The first was filed in a tribal court in North Dakota by Chase Iron Eyes, a Native American businessman, and his wife Sarah Jumping Eagle. On behalf of their 18-year-old Dakota Iron Eyes, who goes by Gibson, they accuse Miller of grooming, brainwashing, and emotionally abusing the teenager. A non-binary indigenous activist Miller met when Iron Eyes was just 12. The tribal court put a temporary order. The tribal court put a temporary order in place, but ultimately dismissed the request for a permanent one. And the parents say they withdrew their request for custody, believing the odds were stacked against them. The second order was requested by a mother in Massachusetts, claiming that Miller's interest in her own non-binary 12-year-old made her and the child uncomfortable in incidents between February and June of this year. The actor denies the allegations. This sounds like a second child, so that's interesting. Interesting picture of Ezra. I don't know if you want to see it. Anyway, they've got a sword there. Most recently, Vermont State Police were dispatched to Miller's farm with an emergency order from the Department for Children and Families. A 25-year-old woman named Anna had moved her 3 young children into the household, though the woman has said that Ezra saved her family from an abusive situation. Miller's farm was said to be gun-ridden and unsafe for children. I saw more guns than ever, and their little kids running around among them. A longtime friend who visited in May tells Vanity Fair. So this is a friend of theirs. That's interesting. The younger girl picked up a bullet and put it in her mouth. The order issued on August the 5th demanded that custody of Anna's kids immediately be transferred to the state. But when police arrived at the movie star's farm, Anna and the children were gone. The children's father tells Vanity Fair that he has not spoken to his kids since April. A court date concerning custody has been set for October in Hawaii. Warner Brothers has not commented on their marquee superhero and declined to speak for this story, but a source close to the situation says the studio and the actor's agency CAA suggested Miller work with someone in crisis PR. On August the 15th, Miller finally admitted that they were in the midst of an intense crisis and said in a statement, "I now understand that I'm suffering complex mental health issues and have begun ongoing treatment. I want to apologize to everyone that I have alarmed and upset with my past behavior. I am committed to doing the necessary work to get back to a healthy, safe and productive stage in my life. A source with knowledge of the situation tells Vanity Fair that the work currently consists of undergoing therapy. Now, this is interesting. Now, a source also told me and many journalists the only reason that Ezra decided to take this treatment, apologize to the people he's upset and allegedly hurt, is because David Zaslav told him directly, and Adby and DeLuca, that they were considering in cancelling the movie. He never thought that was an option. Like many of you didn't think it was an option when I told you it was a serious option. Remember all those lies we did and the arguments and the debates we had? I was right and you were wrong. And this is the only reason Ezra decided to come out and hold their hands up, because the Flash really is all they care about. I hope Ezra finds the light that they shine so brightly, because the kid I met was remarkably a magical person. Over the last 6 weeks, Vanity Fair has spoken to more than a dozen people who crossed paths with Miller in recent years, some of whom worked closely or lived with the actor on the 95-acre farm in Vermont. Most sources describe Miller's spiral as a conflagration of the mental health issues the actor has acknowledged, along with drugs, guns and outlandish claims that has raged for more than 2 years. They say the actor verbally and emotionally abused those around them and referred to themselves alternately as Jesus and the devil. 3 people say Miller has also wrapped the superhero that they play into their grandiose speechifying. The actor says one source was claiming that the Flash is the one who brings the multiverse together, just like Jesus. There you go. All this has been a disturbing trajectory for Miller, whose critical breakthrough came at 19 with their deeply unnerving performance in the 2011 school massacre drama We Need to Talk About Kevin. The following year, Miller proved their range with a charismatic turn in the coming-of-age story, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Since then, the actor has hopscotched from indies like the Stanford Prison Experiment to full-blown franchise stardom, appearing opposite Johnny Depp in the Harry Potter spin-off series Fantastic Beasts, which has grossed about $1.8 billion. The Flash is due out in June of next year. In interviews, Miller has long fashioned himself as a Hollywood outsider and a queer champion who blurs gender lines and seems to revel in provocation. The actor has offered journalists marijuana mid-interview and spoken in gibberish to reporters at Comic-Con while wearing silk lingerie as sexy Super Mario Brothers characters. Right. Look, I know marijuana is illegal in some states, and I don't know where it is and it isn't. I don't know if it's illegal totally in America. But offering reporters marijuana isn't something I'm going to cancel this person for, or what this person wears is irrelevant to me. In 2018, what was intended to be a jovial junket interview promoting Fantastic Beasts, Miller recounted a childhood nightmare that involved the path-trained Beethoven and their mothers and sisters' throats being slit open like pigs. Miller's co-stars mouthed "holy shit" to the camera, though it veered dark. The actor's eccentricity initially struck many as endearing, a rarity in a town where most celebrities are on script, even off set. Miller's outspokenness about sexuality and gender identity earned them a reputation for empathy and progressiveness. But we know that progressive people are not necessarily on the side of the angels. As well as effusive internal titles like Queer Icon, The Hero We Need Right Now, and Our Non-Binary King in 2018 GQ style put Miller on its cover and wrote, "Please God, tell us the next generation of movie stars is going to be like this." And this is where we are now. There are no movie stars. This person isn't a real movie star. They're not. They're not a movie star in the way that our generation understands one to be. A movie star in my day was something to be looked up to for their art and their performance, not for their political narratives. Stephen Chbosky, who wrote and directed The Perks of Being a Wallflower as well as the novel on which it's based, hasn't spoken to Miller in 10 years. He wrote them a letter to show his support when the troubling reports started appearing, but isn't sure he sent it to the right email address. I hope Ezra finds the light and they shine so brightly and back when we shot the movie, he says. Because the kid I met was a remarkably magical person, and I always like to believe that person is always in there, and I hope that they can find the help that they need. Someone who became close with Miller about 3 years ago says the actor was open about their ebb and flow relationship with mental health. The actor told The Hollywood Reporter in 2018, I think for me the times we live in are sort of a choose your own adventure of mental illness, and millennials have been given a lot of intense information. People think we're crazy, and they're right. The source says that both Miller's issues and hard partying accelerated when the actor wrapped projects and had no schedule in March 2020. Let me tell you something. That's something else that progressives do. They talk about Gen Z, they talk about millennials. Now, you tell me about a millennial, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. They're probably talking about me. It doesn't fucking matter. People are not tags and groups. They're individual. But as long as we listen to these progressives and their mindset, we're not going to get any further. Progressives are just as bad as the hard right. It's like taking a day trip to Arkham Asylum. When the world shut down because of the coronavirus and Fantastic Beasts halted production, let's say that again. In March, when the world shut down because of the coronavirus and Fantastic Beasts halted production, Miller suddenly faced an indefinite amount of downtime. The thing is with Ezra, there's absolutely no plan, says the source. It's complete chaos. I didn't even know that we were going to Iceland until they said, let's go to Iceland. The house in Vermont contains an altar that's home to bullets, weed, sage, and flash figurines, an interesting combination. Miller says a source recently demanded that Susan Sarandon come pay tribute to their altar because she didn't invite them to a dinner party. The first time Miller was accused of choking a stranger in Reykjavik, the incident was dismissed as a drunken altercation. But the second incident was filmed and went viral in April 2020. Variety reported that the trouble began when a woman in a bar joked about fighting Miller. The actor reacted so aggressively, putting their hands around the woman's neck and pushing her to the ground, that the bartender said he locked Miller out. Later, Miller's associate says she overheard the actor on a call with Warner Brothers claiming to be the injured party. Well, that's unsurprising. They probably shit themselves. They knew Warner Brothers would be angry. It was Warner Brothers listening and Miller spewing his poor me speech. I'm the one who was hated on, so you have this almost 30-year-old who is a partier telling Warner Brothers that he was the victim. Miller's rep says the actor was baited by a group of teens about their mixed martial arts skills. She claims the choking was not a choking, but a spontaneous reaction during which the actor went at her collarbone. So this representative is giving another story. I don't believe the representative. And let's be clear, mud sticks. I believe all the stuff this person is accused of. We'll get into it after we read the whole thing. 3 people, including 2 who have known Miller for over a decade, believe the outbursts in Iceland were partly kindled by the emotional stress of an actor's parents' divorce in 2019. So the excuses start now. I've lost 2 parents in 3 years. I don't beat people up. I don't throttle people or grab them by the collarbone. I'm still very polite when people abuse me. Well, sometimes on my lives I've reacted aggressively, but I'm only human. But I'm not a violent person, so none of this is an excuse. They say Miller's parents, Marta, a modern dancer, and Robert, a former book publisher, told Miller and their 2 sisters that they were divorcing after decades of marriage. Miller's father quickly remarried. The sources say Ezra didn't start freaking out and losing control of themselves in public until after this happened. This is no justification, and I'm starting to think the motivation of this article is to set everything up to try and make them a sympathetic figure in the public's eyes. Listen, some people will make excuses for them, Some people will hate them for what they're accused of, but the public are not stupid. So the Flash movie is going to happen, whether we want it to or not. But you can't rewrite history, and this simply isn't going to work. Says a long-time friend. The Iceland incident happened, and then it just kept going and going and going. Miller's spokesperson dismisses the idea that the divorce was a key factor. The matters leading up to their recent mental health concerns were a combination of complex stress-related issues. Listen, Miller has literally admitted to everything by apologising in an official statement. Let's not attempt to rewrite history. Miller's father did not respond to requests for an interview for this story. Their mother approached in her front yard in Vermont in early July, said of the coverage of Miller, "The betrayal of the supposed media is stunning. It is your job to separate the false from the true." She then ended the conversation. The problem is you don't know what's true or false because you weren't at these incidents. In fact, their mother only got involved when Warner Brothers suggested that she needed to bring Ezra with her to live with her so they could keep an eye on him as a studio. So she hasn't been involved till now, really. While in Iceland, Miller was accompanied by Jasper Young Bear, a 55-year-old North Dakota medicine man the actor has hired as a spiritual advisor. Young Bear seems to have stoked Miller's outsized vision of themselves. Jasper was telling Ezra that he wasn't a part of the movement. He was the movement, that he was the next Messiah, and that the Freemasons were sending demons out to kill him. And this is the problem. Famous people will get involved with spiritualists and people who mess with their minds. And it's obvious to see here, this is what's happened. But ultimately, if they're guilty of what they've been accused of, this isn't an excuse. But when you're famous, these people will latch hold of you, and it's up to you as an intelligent individual, which Ezra is, not to be sucked in. This happened to Elvis Presley as well, who, like others who have been close to Miller, sometimes misgenders the actor, who is said not to insist on they-them pronouns in private. Well, that's interesting. Young Bear did not respond to requests for comment. Miller's rep says he is a dear friend in an interview with British GQ published the same month as the Island chokings. Miller seemed to suggest a higher purpose, telling the writer, "My prerogative is service. I'm here to do what I can for everybody I can do it for." The rest of the interview, per the writer, was less a conversation than a string of sermons. "I'm not sure exactly what everything means," he wrote, "but it sounds cool, so I nod my head along." According to The Insider, the actor has grown increasingly narcissistic, often choosing young people for their audience because they are more malleable. He talked about the metaverse and the medicine and how they're the Messiah and what his work is here. They say their spiritual practice is to be among the people, which means party. So when in Iceland he was out non-stop, his favourite were raves, where he'd go on benders for 2 or 3 days at a time. Sometimes Miller would extend, can't read that word, so what is that? Quixotic offers to people that the actor met during their travels, says a source. He was telling these kids, "You're going to be in my band, I'm going to produce your album, and you can run my music studio." Whether they were visual artists, DJs, kids that were in college, or sometimes kids who might have been homeless, he would recruit them in a period of vulnerability and promise them all of those things. Nothing ever seemed to materialize. So this is where the grooming accusations are coming from. Since 2017, Miller has lived on the farm in Vermont, which they christened the Mountain. The property, which is surrounded by dense woods, used to be an alpaca and a llama farm and features apple and blueberry orchards, 3 barns and a modest blue-roofed house. Goats roam the premises. The house was kind of a mess, but the friends crashing didn't care. They shot arrows and went for hikes. Miller smoked marijuana, performed chaos music and played Call of Duty into the early morning. Before the troubles in Iceland, the actor could be kind and generous. They'd share weed, occasionally cash, and even plane tickets with buddies in need. But staying at Miller's meant abiding by the actor's rules and tolerating the long monologues. Miller is said to have woven young Dakota Ionize into their narrative, claiming that the pair were fated to be together. A rep for Miller maintains that the actor's relationship with the activist has always been platonic. Yeah, well, their representative isn't going to say they were doing stuff now, are they? Ezra is Jesus, and Dakota's an apocalyptic Native American spider goddess, and their union is supposed to bring about the apocalypse, recaps one person. And that's the real reason everyone is so opposed to them being together. Ioni's mother, Jumping Eagle, has heard Miller's story too. They say they are some kind of messiah and they're going to lead an indigenous revolution. The actor themselves does not have Native American ancestry, and despite being fixated on native cultures, does not strike everyone as respectful. He professes that he walks through this world with an indigenous humility and spiritual awareness, says one indigenous insider. But point of fact, he doesn't at all, because he doesn't care. The house in Vermont contains an altar that's home to bullets, weeds and sage flash figurines, and according to people who visited this year, a lot of times he makes the women put their cell phones on the altar when they come in, and other offerings, says longtime friend. Ezra freaked out recently, demanding that Susan Sarandon come pay tribute to his altar because she didn't invite Ezra to a dinner party. Sarandon and Miller are dear friends, says Miller's rep. She adds that Miller would probably call this an anecdote. Total bullshit if asked. Sarandon did not respond to a request for comment. The representative is clearly lying and trying to twist the narrative. And only the DC fanboys and some Snyder fans who have been living in denial over Ezra for all this time will swallow this bullshit. I've already seen it on Twitter. In 2018, Miller came out as non-binary and polyamorous, telling Playboy about the free love environment they created for themselves, calling it a polycool. A portmanteau of polyamorous and molecule. According to Free People in Miller's circle, the polycule is less a democratic society than an ever-shifting cult harem of mostly young women. A friend of the actor says an openly polyamorous lifestyle that's not inherently wrong to me, but Miller's situation, in their opinion, is actually a patriarchal dictatorship where Ezra controls all the sex as the man and plays the women against each other, screams at them, belittles them in front of the others. So these are your progressives. These are your progressives who put us down. The fans, the consumers, the customers who should at least be, in their minds, always right. Even though the customer isn't always right, you still have to pretend and maintain they're always right. So we're the bad ones and these nut jobs are on the side of the angels. No, what I'm reading here exposes not just everything about Ezra Miller, but this hypocritical, insane industry. The young people in the actor's orbit have included a Londoner named Rosie, who tells Vanity Fair that she's Miller's partner, and Dakota Ionize. Multiple people describe the actor stranding Rosie and Ionize without transportation or money and humiliating them. An old friend partly blames Yes Men, who watched it all happen. Even though I've learned that Ezra's such an asshole, I don't think it exonerates the people that were happy to eat off Ezra's plate until it didn't suit them anymore. Well, here's the thing, and I've spoken about this on all of my social media platforms. When you're famous, when you're a little bit successful or hugely successful, these bloodsuckers jump on you. But you don't have to allow them to suck your blood, to pretend to be your friend. You can see through people, and many famous people do this. This is why famous people can't trust ordinary people, and that's why they're friends with other famous people. I think they ended up probably accidentally being complicit in real weird abuse in power and celebrity. Listen, This person isn't, I don't know what they're trying to say, that this person's innocent. This person knows exactly what they're doing. I'm talking about Ezra Miller and blaming the bloodsuckers and the people who jumped, wanted to be part of their lives because the person's famous. It doesn't matter. This person is the problem. Ezra Miller is the problem. Now, apparently he's getting help, and that's a good thing. And I believe in evolution, in forgiving and forgetting. But it doesn't exonerate Miller. Miller reportedly claimed to be acting as INI's adopted guardian, though the teen is alleged to have gone without a phone, money, underwear, socks, or even shelter. Some people who knew Miller believe the star weaponizes their gender identity in certain situations. If somebody pisses off Ezra, they're transphobic or a transphobic Nazi, says INI's mother. Jumping eagle because we're trying to protect our daughter and we're trying to point out what Ezra's done to harm our daughter. Now we're transphobic. Now this is something else that progressives do. They'll call you an ick, a phobic, an ist, or an ism to try and weaponize you, to try and stop you from proving that they're the problem. A queer associate of Miller's says to me, those are clear instances of manipulation where it's like, are you really queer? Or is it just a fun way to marginalize yourself so you can be even shittier to others? Exactly. Miller's rep calls this completely untrue, saying the actor stands up for civil rights, gender equality, encourages conversation and discourses. So weaponizing identity runs counter to who they are. Again, the representative's going to say all of this. I don't believe a word the representative is saying. The actor's preoccupation with guns is another source of concern, though Vermont is an open carry state and the only state in the US that has never required a concealed carry permit, sources say. Miller claimed to need guns for security and described several disturbing scenes involving the actor and firearms. One friend recalls Miller pulling up to meet him with an assault weapon in the center console. Another person remembers Miller burning sage out of the barrel of an AR-15 and waving it around while singing late last year. Miller allegedly embarked on a meandering road trip with a small entourage, weapons and Kevlar vest. In January, in an incident that further alarmed friends and family, Miller threatened a North Carolina chapter of the Ku Klux Klan in an Instagram video. We all remember that. Look, if you want to die, I suggest you just killing yourselves with your guns, okay? The actor said. They're flashing. Otherwise, keep doing exactly what you're doing right now. And you know what I'm talking about. Then you know. We'll do it for you. If that's what you really want. In a caption, Miller wrote, this is not a joke. And even though I do recognize myself to be a clown, please trust me to take that. Let's say that again. Please trust me and take this seriously. So clearly with this incident, they were trying to expose some Klan members. And I don't know what to make of it. I can't judge it. Obviously, I have to agree with anyone who's opposed to the Klan. But obviously, they have threatened these people. Again, I suppose if we're being totally moral, you shouldn't do that. But we are talking about abusive people who hold a hatred within themselves. We should remember that. According to 4 people close to the situation, Miller's friends and some say their mother Marta was so concerned about the firearms that they locked them in a safe. One person recalls the guns being locked up after a different scare. A person close to Miller claims the actor locked up the guns voluntarily. It was the ultimate betrayal to Miller, who saw most roommates scatter after the KKK episode as well. When 2 friends checked in on Miller later, the scene was pitiful, says one. We got there and there was a big bow and arrow cocked on the table, facing the door. Ezra was lying face down on the floor. One says the house Ezra's friend notes was eerily empty. There's always people in the house and there was just nobody there. But Ezra sort of drunk alone with a bow and arrow because the other people had taken the guns and locked them away. Ezra had drove everyone away, but they were only with him in those parties because they were using them because they were Ezra Miller. And this is the problem. When you're successful, You need to be careful in the company you keep. And Ezra was freaking out about it. We need to talk about Kevin Miller's character, murderous classmates with a bow and arrow. In 2018, the actor told a reporter they kept the weapon from the film on their property. During this low point, Miller is said to have put their phone on speaker and begun calling people to fire them in front of a small audience. He fired every single person, starting from business people, his parents, just every single person one by one, says someone who was present. Miller seemed to enjoy the calls. He kind of start giggling after the person would start crying or something. Lovely. When the two longtime friends returned to the actor's home about a week later, they say Miller had convinced their entourage to give them the safe's passcode and had restocked weapons. They had a flamethrower, bloody hell. And all of these huge AK-47s lying around, says one. They were just guns everywhere. The actor rep says all firearms and ammunitions are registered legal and locked in and out of the way location. That's all right then. This representative is making things worse. We know you're disingenuous. We know that you're lying, that you're trying to be defensive. It would be better if you didn't respond to this stuff, because we know most of this is true. The best thing Ezra can do now is put all this behaviour behind them, get the help that they need, like they are doing reportedly now, and move on. The Flash movie may be hurt because of this. People may never forgive and forget. Some will boycott, some won't boycott, and we'll see how the movie does. Of course, this article is again hugely damaging. I don't really understand the motivations behind it, because Ezra hasn't done anything new lately, but they seem to be very interested in Ezra Miller, and there does seem to be a motivation to put his bad behaviour out into the centrepiece of the public, so the public don't forget. Someone certainly has it in for Ezra Miller. It was February now, and two people say the actor was persuaded to get a mental health evaluation. Afterward, Miller told them that they brought a gun to meet the caseworker, as a result being escorted by police to a medical facility. Miller boasted that they passed the evaluation with flying colours. Now we're in March in Hawaii. By the time Miller was in Hawaii, this spring, the actor no longer resembled the style icon with chiseled cheekbones who once wore daring looks to Met Galas. Miller was, emaciated and unshowered, subsisting on energy drinks, basically surviving on energy drinks spiked with rum, gas station snacks and medicine. According to a witness, medicine just being a code word for whatever drug they're deciding is medicine that week, says a second person who has known Miller for over a decade. The actor's spokesperson says drug use is not the issue. Mental health is the issue. Well, when you're suffering with mental health problems like I have in my life, alcohol and drugs, we use these things to try and calm down the demons, but it only makes us worse. So, my friend, the mental illness and the drugs and the alcohol is a fucking issue. What's interesting here, their own friends are being kind of quoted here. Clearly, these are not friends, these are people who have witnessed stuff and were paid to basically throw Miller on the fire here. So that's bad. I believe the friends, but it's very immoral behaviour to take money to expose someone. Miller was accompanied by Dakota Iron Eyes whom the actor met at a protest of the Dakota Access Pipeline in 2016 in Hawaii. The actor repeatedly claimed to be acting as Iron Eye's adopted guardian, though the teen is alleged to have gone without a phone, money and underwear, socks or even shelter. The duo lived like drifters, sleeping some nights in a polyester tent pitched atop a volcano. There was this volcano. There was this intensely controlling behaviour of Dakota, which at first I thought was for Dakota's own good because they were unstable, says someone who witnessed it. But their perspective changed when Iron Eye's parents petitioned for the protective order, claiming that Miller used violence, intimidation, threat of violence, fear, paranoia, delusions, and drugs to hold sway over a young adolescent. Dakota INIs had told insiders that their parents conducted a disgusting and irresponsible smear campaign against Miller, adding that the actor in multiple cases has done the right thing and stood in protection of others. But don't forget, if the parents are right, this young woman has been manipulated, groomed in some kind of way, allegedly, so she believes everything that Miller does. Even if this alleged abuse of hers is true, then she's going to think that that's okay and it's acceptable. This is what happens when you groom young people, and there's lots of cases. With my work with the Samaritans, I've seen it. So you've got to be careful what Dakota is saying here, because it doesn't really come from someone that can be trusted. Unfortunately, of course, the child could be telling the absolute truth, but sorry, I don't believe her. Miller expressed that they had experienced a lot of trauma and weird shit in the Hollywood scene, and we were like, hell yeah, we'll help you out. Yes, the Hollywood scene is disgusting, but this is what I say on Twitter when I expose these celebrities for abusing their customers and audience. When they're the problem, it's not the audience who are abusers and rapists and murderers and drug addicts. It's the people working in Hollywood today, and they have the nerve to go onto social media and, pretend they're the heroes and we're the villains. I know what these people are like. I know. It was a strange pairing in Hawaii, a nearly 30-year-old Hollywood actor and a teenage activist, but Miller spun the relationship, say 4 people. The story I heard was that INIs was fleeing a family background that was intolerant of their sexuality or gender identity, says a longtime friend. That's a compelling story in 2022. Not really. If your parents have grown up in another era, in another situation, it means they don't understand the new genderizations. They're not with it. It doesn't mean they're transphobic. It means they don't understand. So if your child tells you that they're gay or trans or whatever, a lot of parents and a lot of uncles, not me, would have trouble accepting this. My family would find this troubling if one of my nieces and nephews told them that they were trans or something like that, because they come from a different era. I'm a bit more progressive now because I've been around. I left home at 17 and lived with a gypsy family. I learned a lot of different things, but my siblings were really around my parents all the time. And my parents were they were uneducated in the new world that we live in. And so just because parents don't accept something, it doesn't make them transphobic. They're just scared because they don't know what's going on with their child. And we need to understand this. I bought it. INI's mother refutes this. We simply want Dakota to be independent and safe and happy. We don't want a 30-year-old man or person manipulating and or taking advantage of her. And as a parent, as any decent human being, you can understand that. And obviously, as an uncle, if one of my nieces or nephews was hanging around with a 30-year-old geezer, I would be absolutely horrified. I don't know what I'd do. I see myself as a very intelligent man. I'd be very calm about the situation. I'd try talking to them. I certainly wouldn't just jump in there, because you can tell that the child looks up to this person who you don't trust yourself. So what you've got to do is be calm about it and try and find a solution around it. The situation with INI's family is not uncomplicated. Their father, Chase INIs, pled guilty to burglary and 3 other felonies in 2003. He's since reinvented himself as a political leader and taken what some believe is not entirely selfless interest in INI's activism career. In 2019, hang on, I wasn't concentrating there. What's this about? The situation with INI's family is not uncomplicated. Their father, Chase INIs, pled guilty to burglary and 3 other felonies in 2003. He's since reinvented himself as a political leader and taken what some believe is not an entirely selfless interest in I&I's activism career. What do you mean? His daughter is an activist. As a father, he's taken an interest in that. What do you mean, not a self? I don't understand what you're trying to insinuate here. In 2019, Dakota rallied thousands at the Women's March and the global climate strike and appeared on Christiane Amanpour's PBS series. In December 2021, they were interviewed by Angelina Jolie as one of the 17's Voice of the Year. In late March, Miller and I&I were in Hawaii at the Hilo Farmers Market when they befriended a member of the polygamous family on the east side of the island. The family has a small booth, and the actor told them that they wanted to trade their Hollywood career for a simple Hawaiian storefront and needed merchandise to stock. Miller also mentioned that they were with a companion who needed the actor's help and that the pair was having issues with lodgings. He acted like he was a righteous man or a man of God, and he's helping this woman out. She needs some safety, says the family patriarch, who asked not to be identified by name and has had legal issues of his own, including a domestic abuse case that is still pending. The man and his 4 wives, including the aforementioned Anna, invited the pair to stay on the property with them and their 4 young children. Strange things happened almost immediately. Miller returned to the house one day following what they said was a run-in with cops, complaining about being unfairly targeted and carrying an armload of toys for the kids. He bought Nerf guns for our children and was mansplaining about guns. Mansplaining about guns. I hate these people. I just hate all of these people. I hate what our world's become and the shit and the language they talk in. Says another wife, Kayleen. The actor recruited women to help them chainsaw gather trees in the backyard and build a sweet lodge. One day, while strolling a strip mall with the polygamous patriarch, Miller spontaneously bought him a $2,000 diamond and ruby encrusted gold lion ring from Kay Jewelers. Miller proposed the merging families. According to the father, it was like, we should be partners forever. I want to take you all around the world, says the patriarch, and I didn't decline it. I knew the kind of state he was in. Kayleen says that Miller expressed that they had experienced a lot of trauma and weird shit in the Hollywood scene, and we were like, hell yeah, we'll help you out. Speaking to Playboy in 2018, Miller said, I've survived abuse for sure in a lot of capacities starting from a pretty young age. About 2 weeks after they arrived, Miller and I suddenly left. Family members alleged that the actor took Anna, the 25-year-old wife, in the home and her 3 children with them. While Miller was in Hawaii, sources say the actor's divorced parents flew to the island to try and to help. Later, Miller showed friends an intensely awkward video they'd made of the tearful family reunion. They laughed as they queued it up. He was like, isn't this the most fucked up shit you've ever seen, says someone who was there. The source says that Miller has bragged about punishing their father in the wake of the divorce. He was like, nobody's ever been treated as badly as I've treated Bob Miller in the past year. He was like, I think it's going to make us ultimately much closer in the future. The source says the situation is similar to what many people have spent time with the actor have experienced. The way I describe it, it's like you're in a non-consensual, emotional BDSM relationship with Ezra. Another source in Hawaii asked whether he ever witnessed any altercations involving Miller. Cuts to the chase even quicker. Every interaction with Ezra is an altercation. July 2022, Vermont. Anna was doing an Instagram live from Miller's farm. Since she joined Miller, she and others in the strange caravan had been the subject of social media attacks, and she wanted to tell her side of the story. Ezra fucking saved my life, she said. She'd been stripping so to pay the bills and had started an OnlyFans account. She hadn't even had enough money to buy diapers, she added. Now you all want to call Ezra a cult leader, she said. Well, these accusations, it's interesting, isn't it? Because if Ezra Miller is beyond reproach, why is this person accused of so many things? So there's so many accusations, they've been arrested so many times, so everything this person's accused of is a lie. We know that simply cannot be true in the law of averages. Before she could go on, a small voice chimed in off screen. Mom, in early August, after the police were dispatched to the mountain with the order to transfer Anna's children to the state, the actor began working with a publicist specialising in crisis management. Though Miller has interfaced with police in at least 3 precincts in an array of arrests, the actor's legal problems through good luck or good lawyering have mostly gone poof. Vanity Fair has seen one non-disclosure agreement and heard of a handful of others in what 3 sources describe as a whack-a-mole style legal strategy of paying off alleged victims. Now, an innocent person doesn't have non-disclosure agreements with their victims, do they now? Paying off alleged victims, Miller declined to comment. No charges were pressed in Iceland. In Hawaii, Miller paid a $500 fine after pleading no contest to a disorderly conduct charge related to the karaoke arrest, as part of a plea deal where other charges were dropped. Other allegations in Hawaii about Miller hurling a chair at a woman and breaking into a couple's home, shouting obscenities and stealing a passport and other legal documents were subsequently dropped. A source close to that couple refused to comment, but warned Vanity Fair don't poke a hornet's nest because one stung a few people. So they're clearly afraid of Ezra Miller, allegedly. Miller is scheduled to appear in Vermont court on September 26 for an arraignment on a felony burglary charge related to the alleged breaking and entering and a theft of alcohol. Miller's representatives say the actor was cooking with their mother, needed rice wine and grabbed that and another bottle of wine from the home of a close childhood friend. The rep says Miller did not realise the friend didn't want to be friends anymore. So how did Ezra get into this property? That's what we don't know. If Ezra used the key that was given to them, that there's no crime. If Ezra broke into this place to get the wine and then said, we're friends, oh no, I didn't know we weren't friends anymore. Look, it's fucking insane to ordinary people like you and me. Although, I've been in Hollywood, I know how it works, I've brushed shoulders with these people. Look, it's, as I say, when you go there, it's like no other fucking place, and they're no other people you will ever mix with, because these people live in a bubble. They're bulletproof, you know, they're untouchable basically. They can do whatever they want. They can act out in any insane manner that they want. And I used to ignore this behaviour when I was a younger man, because they were making great entertainment and not accosting and making horrible accusations and attacking their customers verbally. But that's changed now. The hypocrisy of this industry isn't lost on me, and it certainly shouldn't be lost on you. The restraining order in Massachusetts concerning the non-binary 12-year-old will be enforced through June of 2023, according to a source close to the situation. The actor's rep dismisses the allegations, saying Ezra's lack of interest clearly upset a disappointed fan when they would not engage with the fan or her daughter. So they're trying to say that this is look, that's the oldest fucking explanation in the book. Oh, it's because, they're accusing him of rape, which they're not, but they're accusing him of other stuff. But when someone accuses a famous person of rape, it's because, you know, the person in question wouldn't respond to the advances. This is the biggest bullshit in the book. This representative is doing more harm than good, because everyone can see through what she's saying. The local police department confirmed it has an active case involving Miller and the 12-year-old based on 3 interactions the child had with the actor in April, May and June of this year. The actor has not been charged with any crimes relating to Anna's children. Now, let me say this again. So there's an active case involving Miller and the 12-year-old. But according to the representative, you know, this is just a case of a fan not being given the attention. So unless this is a separate case, because there's so many different cases here, I'm confused. Based on 3 interactions a child had with the actor in April, May and June of this year. The actor has not been charged with any crimes relating to Anna's children, despite being concerned Anna's husband, the polygamist, still believes in the integrity of the connection he made with Miller and is still wearing the gold lion ring that the actor gave him. Listen, the people that Miller's involved with are just as crazy as they are. There's no question about that. Crazy mixes with crazy, right? Online, Miller's fans battle negative headlines on the star's behalf. People have spoken out against Miller on record or supported their alleged victims have been attacked and doxxed on Twitter. I know Johnny Depp has a lot of fans and stuff, says a person close to Miller, who claims that Miller's fans are even more dedicated. But, you know, they just don't have the fans. They just don't have the fans that Johnny Depp have. And this is not a falsely accused individual. Let's be absolutely clear here. People devoted their time to this at a time when it's needed. In early August, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav told investors that he was bullish on The Flash and that the movie would go forward with its 2023 theatrical release. The Hollywood Reporter, however, reported that Warner Brothers had discussed scrapping the film 4 days later. Miller released their contrite statement about addressing their complex mental health issues. And this was just done. This was just done so the film could go ahead, hoping that this would put everything to bed. And I think with some people, it will, and with a lot more people, it won't. Here, that is the problem. The notion that The Flash was at risk was a wake-up call, says the actor's rep. Miller and their CIA agent even made a trip to the studio's Burbank, California headquarters to apologize for the negative PR in person and express renewed commitment. The actor is now said to be working with producers on The Flash to shoot additional scenes. Now that's interesting, so that means there must be some additional scenes coming, if you believe that. Some friends say Miller has been so creative with the truth in the past and so cavalier about getting mental health treatment that they have a hard time taking the statement seriously. If he's going through therapy, says one, he's just acting for it. But Miller's spokesperson insists they are taking their therapy and treatment very seriously. You would say that, wouldn't you? Many people hope that's true. Mary Harron, American Psycho, directed the actor for 3 days when they played a young Salvador Dali in Daliland. They were very professional and nice to everybody. She has told Vanity Fair there was no trouble or sign of trouble on set. So it was very upsetting and terrible to read what happened later. Hopefully they are getting help for what sounds like a very, very serious break. It doesn't matter how talented someone is. If they've done anything wrong, they have to face it. Clearly, this is not just a young actor acting out. This seems like something that needs a serious intervention, which I hope has happened. Now, this is a quote that was spoken out a few months ago, and it's absolutely spot on what this person says. As this story went to press, Vanity Fair exchanged messages with Miller's former fiancée, Erin, who asked to be identified by her first name and whom the actor was dating when they began playing The Flash in 2016. The Ezra I knew wasn't violent or physically abusive toward anyone, she said. To think back is painful because we had a deep love and he was good to me. But she does remember darkness after the breakup. For years he convinced me and all of our friends that I was abusive, but looking back, I would be calling out his disrespect and he wouldn't take responsibility and just call me abusive because of my reaction. I could have handled it better. I didn't know the term gaslight back then. I was emotionally fucked up for years. She says that Miller broke up with her after hiring a spiritual advisor who told the actor that she was a parasite. And I mean, maybe the spiritual healer was right, because most people that these famous people get involved with are fucking parasites. I've seen it firsthand. We've seen the amount of people that were living with Johnny Depp. This happens all the time. And why celebrities aren't smarter in who they get involved with because of their position always It astonishes me. It truly does. When the allegations of Miller being abusive to others surfaced, she admits she was hit with a sick relief. Maybe I wasn't the abusive one after all. Maybe you were both abusive. Erin's feelings are complicated. Now I can make excuses for him all day, but I don't want to anymore, she says. The illusions of grandeur need to be called out. I will love Ezra always, and I don't want him to continue down this dark road. Additional reporting by Anthony Bresnikian and Savannah Walsh. These are some of the best journalists in the game. This is not Grace Randolph. This is not John Campion. We're talking about Anthony Bresnikian and Savannah Walsh. These are hugely respected journalists. And Vanity Fair, a very respectable, publication. Now, I've called them out at times when they say things I don't like, but the validity of journalism here is very rare in the industry today. And that is the article, which taken me a fucking hour to read. So this is going to take 500 billion years to post. But I'm not going to leave it there. I'm going to give you my final thoughts on all of this. Now, this was a long article. I got my words mixed up sometimes. I apologize for that. I didn't pause this video once. So for an hour, I've been speaking to you. So I think I did really well considering. I hope you stayed for the whole hour. It was very interesting. I'm going to give you my thoughts now. So I've given my thoughts and kind of thought about what I was going to say because I don't want to be reactive here. Listen, the Ezra Miller thing's been going on for months and months and months. And I kind of naively thought it would go away once he made the statement. But I've just read an article that exposes everything about this person. I don't know Ezra Miller. I don't know if this is a misunderstood person who was once nice but manipulated by a spiritual healer and brainwashed or anything like that. I don't know. But spending time in Hollywood, rubbing shoulders with some of these people, not famous, but a little bit famous. People like that. So not elite elites, but people that may not be in your eye in earshot. But anyway, I've been around Hollywood. I know how it works. The place is fucking insane. I have seen a lot of stuff. This article and the revelations it exposes are even shocking to me. Shocking. And we have seen a young man that is doing things and treating people in a way that normal people don't treat each other. And then there's the accusations of the conduct around children and his motivations being around a 12-year-old girl. Why? Why would a 30-year-old man want to be around a 12-year-old girl? Now, if she's your niece or your daughter, that's different, of course. What is his motivations? It's clear to me that maybe Ezra is a victim of maybe child abuse or maybe abuse while he was at Hollywood when he first came in, or they came in. I think that could be an issue. So I think that Ezra is a victim themselves. There's many young boys and girls who are victims. They come to Hollywood to make their dreams come true, and then the dream becomes a nightmare because Hollywood isn't a dream. It's run by nefarious, horrible people who are abusers. Not just the men, the women too. Meanwhile, they go on social media and they call us ists and isms. This is what your progressive Hollywood is. In a lot of ways, modern day Hollywood is worse than old Hollywood because old Hollywood was very corrupt as well. No question about it, but in a different way. But what we're seeing now, we're seeing progressives enact this kind of behavior while they act like they're all about kindness and compassion. This is a very, very damaging article because all of this information on one article hasn't come out before. It's very damaging. Their fans will try and defend Ezra. I've heard some people saying, why are people saying these things about Ezra? He's so kind and compassionate. As I say, I don't know Ezra Miller. But when you see all these things there, it's absolutely shocking. Warner Brothers would have read this. Warner Brothers are not responding to this article, which means, again, the Flash is under threat. because that apology was supposed to be not just a warning to Ezra Miller not to do anything again, and thus far, from the moment they found out that the Flash movie could be cancelled, and because the Flash means so much to them, they decided to come out, hold their hands out and say, no, I've been in the wrong, I'm seriously going to get help now. There can be no messing about. And the studio have made that abundantly clear. One more thing, and this film is in the fucking bin. But when a studio doesn't respond, that isn't a promising thing. And Ezra's representatives' answers are just not good enough. In fact, they're blatant lies. And that's how I see it personally. This does damage the Flash movie yet again. This is a movie that I think will be hurt in the box office. I think people will come to watch it out of intrigue. Of course, it may not be hurt. All this stuff may bring an intrigue to more people to come and see it. It may be like the Joker situation, where people and progressives were saying that, you know, the Joker is a dangerous movie and people could go to the cinema with guns and, you know, they're going to kill you all, right? That's what they were saying. This is what these progressives, they were trying to stop you from watching this movie because it was about a man, and they felt that Todd Phillips was making excuses for men that kill like Arthur Fleck. That wasn't what Todd Phillips was doing. But anyway, so we could have an intrigue about this movie that brings money to this movie. I just see some people supporting it and some people not supporting it. Listen, Warner Brothers are insisting on releasing it because they've done their research. They think they can make a lot of money out of this movie. This movie isn't part of their plans for the future anymore. Water Armada is gone or going in October. The multiverse strategy that this film was meant to be a part of is dead. Batgirl is dead. That was going to be the first film after the Flash movie using the new timeline. That's dead. It's clear that this film isn't really important, but its importance is that they spent a lot of money. The company is in debt and has a $50-60 billion debt to try and stabilize. And Warner Brothers Discovery are doing a great job to try and fix this situation. But I think this film is still in the balance and could still be cancelled. This article is damaging because in the court of public opinion, even though there's no new misbehaviour from Miller, everything the public have heard and read in this article is hugely damaging. So this film could still end up never being shown. Now, at this moment in time, it looks like this film will be released. We'll have to wait and see. Behind the scenes, it's been a terrible year for DC live action. In terms of stuff that's been released, The Batman, hugely successful, and Peacemaker, hugely successful, and let's see what happens with Black Adam. So, in front of the camera, it's been great, but behind the scenes, it's been a disaster. And articles like this create a really huge problem. And Warner Brothers Discovery have to ask themselves a question. More articles will come out. It looks like that Vanity Fair are like a dog with a bone with Ezra Miller, and they're not going to let it go. And if Miller does one more thing, this film is dead. Nothing you can say here in my comments or on Twitter or anywhere else to defend this person so you can see Michael Keaton in the Flash movie will change that. Ezra Miller holds the keys to the future of this movie. But also, it depends what Warner Brothers are thinking now, because they've read stuff maybe they didn't know. David Zaslav is in a very curious situation because the share value of Warner Brothers Discovery is down there because of the actions of the previous leadership and because they've just had a merger. Everything damaging makes that share price go lower and lower. And when your share prices are down, your investors are not happy. And if your investors are not happy, you could lose them as investors. So if the investors turn around and read this Vanity Fair article, they could say, Mr. Zaslav, it's time to bin this damn movie. This has been Movies TV Mad with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I will see you in the next video, which hopefully will be a lot shorter because I'm absolutely knackered. And the ironic thing is, this is going to take like 2 days to upload, and I'm going to have 5-10 people watching it, which I think's hilarious. Why do I do the videos then? Because I like it. I'm vain. I love the sound of my own voice, and I'm very grateful to the 5-6 people, whoever supports me, right? I get 6 likes on each video. So that means 6 people are literally supporting this channel. I appreciate you, and I will see you again on the next video. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.